The door creaked open with a bang that shook the picture frames. Madison staggered in, her heels clicking unevenly on the hardwood, her perfume clinging to the stale scent of club smoke. A laugh, too loud, too sharp, escaped her lips as she fumbled with the strap of her purse. I didn't say a word at first, just sat there in the dark, one leg crossed over the other, the blue light of the TV flickering across my face. Her eyes caught mine eventually. "Oh," she said, voice slurred and smug. "Didn't know you were still up, sweetheart." Sweetheart. The word landed like glass in my chest. "You've been out since 7, I said evenly. "It's almost 3. She shrugged, wobbling slightly as she kicked off one shoe, then the other. "Time flies when you're not stuck in this dead house with your dead energy." The way she said it, like she was daring me to respond, lit something in me. I stood slowly. "You're drunk. And you're boring." She plopped onto the couch, legs sprawled like a teenager daring her parents to discipline her. "I needed a break from your pity party energy." My fists clenched, but I kept my voice cool. "You needed a break, so you spent rent money at Velvet Room? Dancing with your new friends?" Madison laughed, tossing her head back. "Rent money? Please. Your pride's worth more than that lousy check you bring in every 2 weeks." I stepped forward, heart thudding. "That check paid your parents' mortgage for 2 years. And they still think you're a leech," she snapped, eyes gleaming now. "Isn't that funny?" It wasn't funny. Not when I'd skipped promotions to support her boutique dreams, when I'd sold my truck to cover her mom's medical bills. I used to think love was sacrifice. But tonight felt like a transaction where I'd been conned from day one. "You know what?" I said quietly, voice low and cutting. "I can't wait for tomorrow." She tilted her head. "Oh, what's tomorrow?" I met her gaze, steady and cold. "Divorce court." For a beat, she froze. Just one heartbeat. Then she let out a mocking laugh so venomous, it sliced through me sharper than any curse. "You think I'm scared of that?" she taunted, standing now, teetering in her own ego. "You think I'll just hand you what you want? That I'll make it easy for you? Please, Daniel. You're not the one leaving me. I'm the one done with you." She spun around and slammed the bedroom door so hard the walls shook. And still, I stood there, my hands trembling, not from fear, but from something darker. Something that had been buried beneath years of compromise and guilt and second chances she never deserved. Outside, the cicadas buzzed like static. Inside, I breathed in the silence she left behind. I had a life once. Simple, maybe, but honest. I worked construction in the Texas heat, came home with blistered hands, ate dinner on a scratched-up table I built myself. Madison used to meet me at the door, barefoot, wearing one of my old shirts, grinning like I was the only man on earth. But somewhere between her chasing bottle service and me chasing stability, something broke. And tonight, I knew it wasn't coming back. Let her laugh. Let her slam all the doors in this house. Because tomorrow, she'd walk into court thinking she still held the cards. She didn't know I'd already folded the hand and walked away from the table. The courthouse smelled like old paper and boiled coffee. I sat on the hard wooden bench, tie knotted too tight, hands steady on my knees. Across the aisle, Madison lounged like she was on a magazine cover shoot. Legs crossed, sunglasses on indoors, chewing gum like the outcome was already hers. But the real show was 2 seats down, her parents. Marjorie and Wallace Whitmore. The kind of people who donated to libraries just to have their names etched in bronze. Madison's money wasn't hers. It never was. Or the car I let her drive while she played entrepreneur. He didn't answer. Just gave a grunt and turned away like he'd smelled something rotten. Marjorie, dressed like she was heading to a country club brunch, sniffed audibly. "You've always lived beyond your station, Daniel. That's the problem. You thought marrying Madison made you somebody." "I never wanted to be somebody," I said. "Just wanted to be her husband. Turns out, that job was above your daughter's pay grade." Her mouth twitched, but she didn't reply. Not verbally. Just turned to Madison with that cold little nod mothers give their daughters when they want blood. But the only one not looking at me was Grace. Madison's younger sister sat tucked into the corner of the bench, hands folded neatly in her lap. She wore a soft blue cardigan and had her hair pinned back like she didn't want to be noticed. But her eyes, they flicked to mine for just a second. Just long enough for me to catch something I hadn't expected. Guilt. The judge called us in. The hearing was quicker than I thought it'd be. Madison's lawyer tried to paint me as controlling, bitter, and manipulative. Madison didn't say much. She didn't need to. She let the suit do the talking while she sat with her legs crossed and her arms folded like she was waiting for her latte to arrive. My lawyer handed over bank statements, mortgage records, receipts, all in my name. It was quiet when the judge leaned forward, glasses perched low on her nose. It appears Mr. Hunt should retain ownership of the property and assets registered in his name. Mrs. Whitmore Hunt will receive monetary compensation for her contributions and retain ownership of her vehicle. Divorce finalized as of today. Just like that. Madison didn't flinch, but I saw the tightness in her jaw. Outside, the sky had turned overcast, Texan gray, the kind that promises thunder but delivers only sweat. As we stepped out of the courthouse, Wallace stopped on the stairs. "This isn't over," he said, close to my ear. "You humiliated my daughter." "No," I replied, stepping past him. "She did that to herself." Grace passed by quietly, but before she followed her family to the car, she looked back. Just a flick of her eyes, then gone. I was still wearing the same boots I'd worn when I built the deck out back. The same boots Madison once called embarrassing. Funny, those boots had lasted longer than our marriage. As I sat behind the wheel, I let out a breath I didn't even know I was holding. This wasn't a victory. Not yet. But it was a start. They came to watch me squirm. Came to see me crushed under their weight. What they saw instead was a man who'd already buried the marriage and brought flowers to its grave. And maybe, just maybe, one of them saw the truth. Not Madison, not her parents, but Grace. The courthouse steps weren't even behind me before I heard her voice. Unbelievable. Madison's heels clicked fast against the pavement. "You really think this is fair? You get the house, and I get a car? Are you serious, Daniel?" I didn't turn around, just kept walking toward my truck like the whole thing was background noise. She caught up quick. Her manicured hand reached for my arm, yanking hard. "Don't walk away from me. You owe me more than this." I stopped, finally facing her. She looked different out here, under the sun, without the courtroom calm. Her lipstick was smudged, hair slightly windblown, fury written all over her face like she'd carved it there herself. "Oh, you," I repeated, almost surprised by the word. "I gave you everything I had. My time, my work, my name. And when that wasn't enough, you went looking for more, in clubs, in networking events, in people who didn't ask too many questions." She scoffed. "Oh, please. This victim act? You really think anyone buys it?" "No act," I said. "Just facts." She laughed, but it was brittle now. "You think you've won? You think keeping that sad little house means you came out on top? You'll die alone in it, Daniel. You're not the catch you think you are." "Maybe not," I said, unlocking the truck. "But at least I'm not still out here performing like I'm the star of a reality show that got canceled 2 seasons ago." That one hit. Madison's face flushed red, her mouth twitching like she wanted to say something crueler, but nothing came out. Instead, she spun on her heel and stormed toward her parents' car, the sharp slam of the door punctuating her exit like a gavel. I climbed into my truck and sat still for a long minute, hands resting on the wheel. The sun filtered through the windshield. I watched her car pull away, Marjorie in the driver's seat, Wallace staring daggers through the glass, Grace in the back, staring at the seat in front of her like it held all the answers. When the road was clear, I finally started the engine. And for the first time in months, I turned the music up, not too loud, just enough to fill the silence that used to suffocate me. It was almost dusk by the time I got home. The house stood there exactly as I'd left it. Same faded shutters. Same porch swing that creaked when the wind passed through. But it felt different now. It was mine. No more passive-aggressive sticky notes on the fridge. No perfume cloud trailing through the hallway. No muffled late-night phone calls behind a locked bathroom door. Just peace. I opened the windows wide and let the air roll through, carrying out the old arguments, the quiet crying, the thick fog of second-guessing myself. I walked through each room like I was reintroducing myself to a version of me I hadn't seen in years. The silence didn't hurt anymore. It didn't accuse me. It didn't ask for explanations. It welcomed me. I made a simple dinner, grilled cheese, tomato soup, a cold beer. Ate on the porch with my boots kicked up, watching the sun bleed orange behind the trees. And somewhere between the last sip of beer and the first chirp of evening crickets, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I was just tired. Tired in a clean way. The kind that comes after finishing something that took more strength than you knew you had. That night, I lay in bed with the windows cracked open, the soft hum of the street outside like a lullaby. No yelling, no doors slamming, no cold space beside me full of resentment. I slept better than I had in months. And when I woke the next morning, sunlight creeping over the ceiling, I didn't check my phone for texts that weren't coming. I just breathed. 2 days passed in a blur of quiet routines. I cleaned the gutters, mowed the lawn, fixed the cabinet door that had been hanging crooked for 6 months. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. There's something about reclaiming your space. It isn't just about the furniture. It's about reclaiming yourself. Then, on a warm Thursday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Grace standing there. She looked small somehow, like she didn't belong on my porch in that pale green sweater, sleeves tugged down over her wrists. Her eyes darted from the porch railing to the street before settling on mine. "I know this is weird," she said softly, but I didn't know who else to talk to. I stepped aside. "You want to come in?" She hesitated, then nodded. I led her into the living room. She didn't sit, just stood there by the window, arms crossed tight over her chest like she was holding herself together. "I overheard a lot," she said after a pause. "During the whole mess. Stuff Madison said to her friends, stuff she said to Mom and Dad." I waited. Let her speak at her own pace. "She lied," Grace finally whispered. "About everything. About why you were divorcing. About what you did. She made you sound like a monster." And I just sat there. My voice was quiet. "Why didn't you say anything?" She flinched, like she expected me to yell. "Because I was scared. Madison, she controls everything in our family. She always has. Speaking up would have made me the enemy." The room fell into silence, broken only by the tick of the wall clock. "I didn't come here for forgiveness," she said. I thought you should know you're not crazy. You didn't imagine it." I nodded slowly, not saying anything right away. Then, softly, "I already knew I wasn't crazy. But it's still good to hear." Grace gave a weak smile, but there was sadness behind it. "I should have said something sooner." I walked to the door, opened it gently. "You're here now? That's what matters." She didn't move. "Daniel," she said, her voice catching, "you don't deserve what she did to you." "I know." She nodded, eyes glistening. Then she stepped out onto the porch and paused. "I shouldn't have come. Her voice cracked. "I wanted to stop feeling like a coward." "You're not a coward," I said. "You just grew up in the same storm I did. Only difference is, I finally walked out of it." She gave a soft laugh through her tears, turned, and walked down the steps. I watched her go, her silhouette shrinking against the setting sun. And for a moment, I felt something stir. Not anger, not sadness, just a faint sense of recognition. Like two survivors passing on the same bridge, both too bruised to wave, but still silently grateful the other made it out. It was a gray Saturday afternoon, the kind where the sky can't decide between drizzle or nothing at all, when I ducked into the local bookstore just to kill time. The place smelled like dust and ink, with creaky floors and jazz humming from a speaker tucked behind a plant that hadn't seen sunlight in a while. I wasn't looking for anything, just something to hold, to read, to forget. I was halfway down the nonfiction aisle, flipping through a biography I'd never actually buy, when I heard a familiar voice. "Daniel." I turned, and there she was. Grace. She was holding a small stack of books against her chest, her sweater sleeves pulled down over her hands again, like armor. Her eyes widened when I met them. I raised a brow. "Are you following me?" She laughed, surprised by it. "Maybe," and shook her head. "You're not that interesting." "Good to know," I said. "Though running into you twice in 1 week feels a little suspicious." "I work down the street," she said, stepping closer. "I come here on my lunch breaks sometimes. It's quiet." "Yeah," I said. "That's rare these days." There was a pause, soft, but not uncomfortable. Grace glanced down at the top book in her stack, Women Who Run with the Wolves. She gave me a sheepish smile. "Don't judge me." I smiled back. I'd be a hypocrite. I've been reading the same Cormac McCarthy novel for 3 years. That made her laugh. Really laugh. And it hit different this time, brighter, easier. Something loosened between us. About work. About how she used to be the kid who'd fake a stomach ache just to stay home and read. "Madison hated that," she said, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "She used to tease me about it. Said I'd grow up to be invisible." I didn't say anything right away. Just watched her eyes as she looked out the window. "She never liked things she couldn't control," I said finally. Grace nodded, slowly. She always took up the whole room. All the space. I learned to fold into the corners. And now? I asked. She looked at me. Now I'm trying to remember how to unfold. I let those words sit there. Let them echo. I used to think I was the boring one, I said. While Madison sparkled. Everyone said I was lucky to have her. They didn't know her, Grace said. No, I replied. But I did. And I still stayed. Grace looked at me like she was reading between the lines. You loved her, she said quietly. That's not weakness. I didn't answer. Just nodded. The rain finally started, soft against the glass. We sat there, watching it, saying nothing. It wasn't awkward. It was the kind of silence that fills a space without making it feel empty. When we stood to leave, she hesitated at the door. Thanks, she said, for letting me sit with you. You make it sound like a favor. She smiled, that same soft, uncertain smile I'd seen on my porch. It felt like one. And just before she walked out into the rain, I saw it again, that glance over her shoulder. A look that lingered just a second too long to be casual. I was fixing the hinge on the back gate when my phone buzzed. A simple message. Can we talk? Grace, I stared at it for a few seconds, then typed back. When? Now? Outside your house. I walked to the front door slowly, unsure what to expect. But when I opened it, there she was again, Grace, standing on the porch with her hands in the pockets of a denim jacket 2 sizes too big, like she was bracing for a storm. You okay? I asked. She looked up, eyes clear and steady. I am now. I stepped aside. She didn't hesitate this time. Inside, I made coffee out of habit. She didn't want tea, said she needed the bitterness. Then she pulled out her phone, set it gently on the table, and looked me in the eye. I want to help you, she said. Help me. I raised an eyebrow. She unlocked her phone and scrolled, then turned the screen toward me. A screenshot, one of Madison's social media posts from 2 weeks before the divorce. A selfie. The caption read, "Some men don't deserve your loyalty. Don't waste your shine." I blinked. That's not new. Grace swiped again. More screenshots. DMs, snarky comments from Madison's friends, laughing about how she was prepping her exit. Memes. Group chat banter. One post that said, when he pays the bills and you pay him back by living your best life. #upgrade. My stomach turned. Not from surprise. From recognition. I'd seen that tone in her eyes for months. Just never had proof before. You kept these? I asked. Grace nodded. I saw them as they came in. I never liked them. I just screenshotted them. I don't know why. Maybe I was waiting for the day when someone finally cared what the truth looked like. She took a deep breath. But that's not all. She opened a folder. Dozens of images. Text threads. Photos of Madison at clubs, different guys, different nights. All time-stamped. She was seeing people while still married to you, Grace said flatly. Long before the separation. She lied to everyone. Said you were the jealous one. Controlling. That you wouldn't let her breathe. And you saved this? I asked, voice quieter now. I didn't know what to do with it, she said. But now, I want to do something. I leaned back, arms folded. What exactly are you suggesting? Grace met my eyes. We start putting the truth out there. Not revenge. Not slander. Just facts. You deserve your name back, Daniel. I studied her. The girl who used to hide behind her sister's shadow was now here in my kitchen, asking to stand in front of it. You sure you want to get in the middle of this? I asked. Your family won't take it well. She gave a soft, tired smile. They never really took me at all. I think I'm done waiting for them to start. There was silence. Not heavy, just full of meaning. I looked down at the phone, at the quiet evidence of months of manipulation, now sitting like a live wire on my table. I exhaled. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Grace blinked. Really? I nodded. You've already done the hard part. You stood up. I can meet you halfway. She smiled, wide this time, with something like relief woven in. That night, we sat side by side on the couch, uploading screenshots. No captions. No accusations. Just truth. Clean and quiet. The reactions came fast. Friends started messaging. Some with apologies. Some in disbelief. A few even called Madison out directly, tagging her in posts she couldn't dodge. By midnight, it was like a small tide had shifted. Not a flood, but a change. And when Grace finally stood to leave, she paused by the door. I didn't think you'd say yes, she whispered. I looked at her, truly looked at her, for the first time, not as Madison's sister. Just Grace. You came to me with honesty, I said. That's more than I've gotten from anyone in a long time. She nodded, lingered a moment longer, then stepped into the night. I closed the door behind her and leaned against it, phone still buzzing in my pocket. This wasn't revenge. It was restoration, and it had only just begun. She called me around noon. Her voice was shaky but calm. That eerie mix that tells you something's already gone off, and you're just being pulled into the fallout. I told her, Grace said. I sat up straighter on the porch swing. Told who what? Madison, she whispered. I told her I was done covering for her. That I helped post everything. That I had screenshots. My gut clenched. How'd she take it? Grace gave a humorless laugh. She screamed so loud I think the walls shook. Said I'd ruined the family. That I was jealous. That I was trying to steal her spotlight. And your parents? I asked. They stood behind her. Like always. Said I was being dramatic. Said you manipulated me. I stayed silent. Not because I didn't have words, but because none of them felt useful. She told me I was dead to her, Daniel. Grace's voice cracked slightly. Said if I ever showed my face at Thanksgiving, she'd throw the turkey at my head. Despite the weight of it all, I let out a soft exhale that was somewhere between a sigh and a laugh. Guess that saves you a bad meal. She was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm scared. Those two words cut deeper than all the insults Madison had probably thrown. I sat up, leaning forward. You didn't do anything wrong, Grace. I know that, she said, softer now. But knowing it doesn't make it easier. I looked out at the yard. The wind had picked up. Leaves scattered across the lawn like the past few months. Messy, loud, impossible to control. I'm sorry I dragged you into this, I said, surprising even myself. You didn't drag me, she replied. I walked in. Another pause. Then she whispered, was it worth it? I didn't answer right away. She let that settle. I just needed to hear someone say it, she admitted. You're not alone anymore, I told her. And I meant it. After we hung up, I sat with the weight of her choice. Of mine. Of what it cost someone like Grace, quiet, loyal, invisible most of her life, to finally speak. She didn't do it to save me. She did it to stop disappearing. And maybe, just maybe, that made her stronger than all of us. It was just after midnight when my phone buzzed again. Grace, I need to show you something. Can I come over? I stared at the message for a full minute before typing back. Doors open. When she arrived, she didn't knock. Just stepped in like she'd done it 100 times before. She looked different, tense, tired, but also like someone who had finally stopped running. She didn't sit. Just handed me her phone. The screen already unlocked, her fingers shaking slightly. I found this when she forgot to log out of her backup account, she said. She used it to talk to the guys she was cheating with. I didn't want to believe it at first. But, it's all here. I scrolled slowly. Madison's messages. Photos. Dates and timestamps that ran back months, well before she ever brought up divorce. Conversations dripping with flirtation, lies, and fake stories about how cold I'd become, how trapped she felt. There it was. The truth. Not the half-truth she'd spun in court. Not the version she gave her friends. But the full, unfiltered reality. I looked up at Grace. Her eyes were glassy. I should have told you sooner, she whispered. I had these for a while. But you were finally doing better, and I didn't want to set you back. I didn't want to be the reason you unraveled again. I held the phone, breathing slowly. You were trying to protect me. She nodded, even if it wasn't my place. I shook my head. No, you were right to wait. But you're also right to show me now. She sank into the chair across from me, folding her arms tightly. I'm scared of what comes next, she said. Madison's already threatening to make everything worse. And I don't know if I'm strong enough to keep standing in the crossfire. I set the phone down. You are. Grace looked at me, searching for something behind my words. I leaned forward. You're not the same woman who showed up on my porch afraid of her own voice. You've been braver in 2 weeks than most people manage in years. She blinked, tears spilling now, quiet and unchecked. I just didn't want to carry it anymore. You're not, I said. Not alone. She stayed a while longer. We didn't talk much after that. Sometimes you don't need more words. You just need someone to sit with the weight of it. When she finally stood to leave, I walked her to the door. She hesitated at the threshold. You're not angry? She asked. I shook my head. Not at you. Her lip quivered, and for the first time, she didn't try to hide it. Good night, Daniel. Night, Grace. I watched her walk down the path and disappear into the dark. And when I closed the door, I locked it, not to keep anyone out, but to finally keep the truth in. The morning came heavy. I was halfway through making coffee when I heard the front door handle jiggle, then slam open like a storm. Hair wild, eyes bloodshot, like she hadn't slept in days. "You think this is funny?" she shrieked. "You think humiliating me online is going to make you some kind of hero?" I didn't flinch, just took a slow sip of coffee. "Morning to you, too. My brand deals are falling apart. My parents are asking questions I shouldn't have to answer." I set the cup down and leaned against the counter. "You mean questions like, when exactly did you start lying to everyone around you? Or why did your sister have to be the one to finally tell the truth?" Her head snapped up. "Where is she?" I paused. "Who?" "Grace," she shouted. "Don't play dumb with me, Daniel. She's the reason all of this exploded. She's the one who stole my phone, my screenshots, my life." "She didn't steal anything," I said calmly. "She revealed what you buried. There's a difference." Madison stormed toward me, hands clenched. "She's dead to me. Do you hear me? Dead. I gave her everything. My clothes, my contacts, my guidance. And this is how she repays me." I smirked. "Your guidance broke her, Madison. You didn't raise her. You erased her. And she finally realized you weren't a lighthouse. You were the storm." The front door opened again before she could respond. "Grace." She stepped in slowly, her expression unreadable. Jeans, hoodie, hair pulled back in a low ponytail. Calm, collected, until her eyes met Madison's. "You don't belong here," Madison snapped. "This isn't your house anymore," Grace replied. "You gave that up when you walked out." Madison's eyes flared. "You think he's going to save you? He won't. He's pathetic. Always has been." Grace didn't blink. "He doesn't have to save me. I saved myself." The silence that followed was sharp. Madison took a slow step forward. "You ruined everything. Our family, our name." "No." Grace interrupted, her voice rising but steady. "You ruined everything. I just stopped cleaning up after you." I'd never seen Madison like this. Cornered, exposed, rattled beyond repair. She looked at both of us like she didn't recognize what we'd become. Because we weren't afraid anymore. "Leave," I said, voice low. She hesitated, her bravado faltering. "Now." Madison stared at me, then at Grace. For a split second, her face cracked. Grief, desperation, something old and bitter clawing its way to the surface. But then she turned it off. Just like that. She pulled her coat tighter and stormed past us, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. We stood in the quiet for a long time. Grace spoke first. "She's never going to let this go." "I know," I said. "But now she doesn't get to rewrite the story." Grace looked up at me. "She's going to turn our parents against me." "She already has," I said. "But that doesn't mean they'll stay blind forever." She exhaled. "I didn't expect it to feel like this." "Like what?" She gave a soft, almost sad smile. "Like freedom and heartbreak at the same time." I nodded slowly. "That's how you know it was real." Grace moved toward the window, staring out at the street like Madison might come charging back. "She's lost control," I said. "And she's trying to break whatever she can on her way down." "She almost did," Grace whispered. "But not anymore." We didn't say anything for a while. Just stood there in the morning light, breathing the same air for the first time without flinching. And then, quietly, Grace reached out and took my hand. I didn't pull away, because for the first time, it didn't feel like we were surviving something. It felt like we were building something. Something she couldn't touch. It was 2 days later when I got the email. Subject line, from Wallace and Marjorie Whitmore. I stared at it for longer than I care to admit. There was a time when I would have deleted it without a second thought. But something in me, the same something that had stopped flinching when doors slammed, clicked the mouse instead. It was short, stilted, formal, but unmistakably sincere. "Daniel, we've taken the time to go through what was shared. We were unaware of the full extent of the situation. Madison never offered clarity, and, regrettably, we never asked. We owe you an apology. What you did for our family, financially, emotionally, and otherwise, was never fully acknowledged. We're sorry for that. We were blinded by loyalty to our daughter, but that doesn't excuse how we treated you. It was strange. I hadn't done anything grand. No speeches, no parades. Just listened. Just stood by her when no one else would. I never asked for their approval, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't settle something inside me. Like a long-held breath finally released. That night, Grace came over after work. No drama, no tension, just quiet. We sat on the porch, each with a mug in hand. Hers was chamomile, Mine was black coffee I didn't really need, but drank anyway. I got an email, I said. She tilted her head. From your parents. Her grip tightened slightly on the mug, like she was bracing. They apologized, I continued. Said they were sorry. Said thank you. She blinked, visibly stunned. They never apologize, she whispered. I know. She looked away, blinking hard. They read it all, didn't they? Seems like it. I watched her process it. That mix of disbelief and quiet grief. Because even when the truth is vindicated, it doesn't erase the years before it. They never protected me, she said. Not once. Not when Madison bullied me, or lied, or stole things that mattered. They always said it was just sisters being sisters. Now they know better, I said gently. She gave a bitter chuckle. Too late. Maybe, I said. But sometimes late is still something. We sat in silence for a while. The wind was starting to cool, early signs of fall creeping in. Somewhere down the block, wind chimes danced. Grace looked over at me. You know, she said softly, I didn't just stand up for you. I know. I stood up for me. You deserve to. She exhaled, the sound almost fragile. I feel like I've been holding my breath since I was 12. Then breathe, I said. You've earned it. She looked at me for a long time. Not like I was Madison's ex. Not like I was part of some tragic family drama. But like I was hers. Something steady in a life that had never given her much to lean on. And then, without a word, she leaned her head on my shoulder. The sky had turned orange by then, the sun dipping below the trees. I didn't say anything. Didn't move. Because sometimes healing doesn't look like confetti or closure. Sometimes it's just sitting still, while someone who never felt safe finally does. The leaves had started to fall. Not all at once. Just enough to paint the yard in soft gold and tired red. The kind of fall Texas offers when summer finally releases its grip, reluctantly, like it doesn't want to let go. Grace sat beside me on the porch swing, knees curled up, sipping her coffee slow. I had mine too, black and quiet. We didn't talk much these days. Not because we didn't have anything to say, but because we didn't have anything left to prove. The world had gone quiet in the best way. Madison hadn't shown her face since that morning. Her parents reached out once more. Grace met them for lunch, just her and her mother. It didn't fix everything, but it was a beginning. A soft thaw in a long winter. I didn't ask about it after. I let her share only what she wanted. And in that silence, something strong built between us. Not dependence. Not rescue. Just space to be whole. It's funny, peace doesn't come like a wave. It trickles in. One night, without overthinking. One morning where the coffee tastes right. One moment where someone reaches for your hand and means it. Grace stirred beside me. You know, she said, voice low. Sometimes I still wait for it. For what? For the next explosion. For the moment it all unravels again. I looked at her. And does it? She shook her head slowly. Not lately. We watched a squirrel race along the fence, dragging something it probably didn't need, but couldn't bear to let go. I used to think justice was loud, she said after a while. Like courtroom drama or public apologies. But now I think it's just truth finding a place to land. I smiled. Sounds like something you'd read in one of your books. She leaned against me. You used to be a chapter in Madison's story, she whispered. But you're not anymore. I looked out at the yard, the wind stirring the trees. And you? I asked. She smiled, resting her head against my shoulder. I think I'm finally writing my own. We sat like that until the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the porch in soft orange and cool blue. No fights. No noise. Just two people, sitting still. And somewhere deep inside, I knew, the last page of Betrayal had finally turned. Not with vengeance. Not with applause. But with peace.